Hello, everybody. I'm Eddy Trevino, and this session is called Multi-Year Planning and Implementation for Jobs in Action. This is a take out your pen and take notes session, because what we are going to share today are steps that will help you as you plan for the infrastructure and also for any other funding opportunities. And what we're going to share today are lessons learned, pitfalls that we've experienced. The hope is that by taking notes on some of the comments that are made, that you won't make the mistakes that we made during ARA, and that it'll help you get your projects underway. There's an awful lot of lessons to be learned in the process. So I'm honored to be joined today by Pat Stanton, Paul Vrabel, and Robert Jackson. And what I'll tell you, just a little bit about Texas, what we've done is, you hear all of the information from Jeff and from David, and I have this image of a cat with his eyes wide open going, holy cow, all of this is coming, what am I going to do, and how do I break it down into manageable bites? So what we've done, just to give you an example, is knowing that this was coming, we used some of our SEP funding and actually created RFAs that will mirror RFAs that will be used in the infrastructure plan. And the intent of my intent of that process was to get our staff up to speed on what this is going to look like, what the contracts will look like, the types of contracts, who the audience is, and why we're doing what we're doing. This way, when the funding becomes available, we'll not only be ready internally, but some of the districts, school districts, we deal with school districts and local governments and county governments predominantly, so that they'll be ready. And we're telling them up front, guys, you get this right now with these RFAs and you learn how to do it now. When the funding becomes available, you'll be able to maximize your opportunity. And so we're priming the pump is what we're doing with the dollars of our SEP that we received this year. And I just wanted to tell you that I have high expectations, not only for the users or the beneficiaries of this funding, but also for us, because we're going to get a lot faster in how we get these projects loaded and ready to go. So let's start with Pat, and she can share all of her wisdom with us and her experiences as well.
Okay, I have my slides, please? So being ready when the money comes. That's what we've all been worried about, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the work that E for the Future has been doing with NASEO over the last 4 or 5 months, and anticipate work to be done in the future. Next slide, please. Do I have a slide clicker? I don't know. Oh. So for those of you who may not know, E for the Future, we're an advocacy organization. We really work at trying to pull together the 4 major components of the public policy as it relates to energy. So energy, economy, equity, and environment. So, and you may be familiar with some of our work. We just last week released the the Energy Efficiency Jobs in America report, and I know it was mentioned at lunch, the National Standard Practice Manual. So we do have some content capabilities within the organization, but our work with NASEO at this point is really more about convening, facilitation, and figuring out how to get from here to there. Now, I had put in a stint at the Energy Office in Massachusetts. I know what it's like to have all of a sudden more resources than people to manage the resources, expectations coming from the governor's office, expectations coming from everybody that where's this money, where are the projects? So I will bring that, my sensitivity and empathy to the work ahead. So our goal is to try and create some structure to help all of us get through the chaos. So the wide eyes of the cat can close down a little bit, and we can maybe make some impactful progress. And in this area, we have been working with NASEO since about June. In July, a number of you participated in a working group, which was super helpful. We then had a survey out to find out what are the issues that at least then you were interested in, or that energy offices were interested in, and began to start thinking about, well, how could we be most helpful in having you guys, the energy offices, be successful? And how can we provide convening and facilitation work support to make it a little less painful? So one of the ways that we're envisioning providing, making things a little easier is through briefings. And this is where NASEO, this is like, Jeff has provided a briefing at lunch where he had information and to give it out to you folks. And we're certainly where the money is as bills are passed and we get the details. Certainly looking at where money is going to other agencies in the state that affect energy, transportation, emergency response, schools. Where can you help within your state convene and get coordination so the projects are more successful? Also, the rules of the game, number one issue raised by the states, Davis-Bacon, Buy American, and this year we'll be really looking at Justice 40. We have identified a couple of experts to help us, and we're hoping to get information out in the next couple of months on that. So a little bit higher lift for you or your staff is advisory committees. There are a couple of situations that came up on the list of concern, compliance strategies, models, different models for how to get grants out. Particularly, I thought it was very relevant given the previous session, really small communities. How do we help the really small communities who have zero bandwidth, that they've got part-time selectmen? How do we help? How do states design programs that are really supportive and help make a difference in those communities? We're going to be looking for advisory committees. We're probably looking for maybe 2 days of commitment from someone on your staff for over 6 months to review documents that we're preparing that we think will be valuable to other energy offices. And we want to have boots on the ground verification that we're going in the right direction. So keep that in mind when we come out and ask for volunteers for advisory committees. Bigger heavy lifting, but where a lot of the fun may happen is in working groups. And this may be working groups, collaborations among the states, or it may be our helping to facilitate collaborations within the state. So if it's on what to do in school buildings, I know you heard all about, not all about, but a lot about school buildings a little while ago. Do you bring together people from schools, people from the procurement business side of schools, people from your emergency response? In many of the smaller communities around our states, the biggest building in the community is the school. So if you're going to be doing resiliency,